Welcome to Access, brought to you by Crypto.com. Matthew, Lloyd and Damian Barrett with you. Lordo, a couple of clubs with massive problems early in the season. And it's a massive weekend for those two clubs. We're going to start with Melbourne, obviously, who we'll talk about shortly, who were appalling again for the second week straight. And the Blues, what a big night it is for them against Collingwood on Thursday night coming up. We'll make the Demons the focus of our boardroom agenda for round three, Lordo, because there are problems off-field, there are problems on-field. I'll get you, though, to wade through what is annoying this football club on-field. Well, we're going to talk about the Gold Coast Suns shortly, and Damien Hardwick speaks about identity. Well, I don't know what Melbourne's identity is right now. So for me, they always were a really strong stoppage side. They were really strong in defence, and they were tough. But I couldn't say that we're going to get to some stats soon. They're certainly a very poor stoppage side. They're not a good defence, and they're not good at the stoppage. And so we heard a lot over the off-season, but there's no position of strength whatsoever. Apart from a few youngsters that have come into the team, there is nothing to be excited about whatsoever with the Demons. So this loss coming on the weekend, as it did against Gold Coast, it came after an equally poor performance against North Melbourne. And to open the season, they had a good performance against GWS. But you then tally it all up and you have a look at these numbers, which we're just going to show you here. There's 6 areas of measurement here, Lordo. They're dreadful numbers for a team that ultimately wanted to be finishing in the top 4. And when you look at them, clearances, tackles, inside 50s, goals, disposals per goal, inside 50s per goal. What is the most damning number that you see off that screen? Well, it starts at the coalface, and when you've got a midfield demo of Gawn, Petracca, Oliver Viney, you think clearances are going to be pretty good, but they're the worst side in the competition in an area of strength, so it's a real concern about where their best players are at. And then you get to the off-field, and you've already touched on it, and it was the use of the word love that they chose to put into the public narrative about what they were as a footy club. I had some reservations, Thordo, and it was always based upon what they were going to then do with regards to the win-loss column. It's not coming out well. You don't just click your fingers and fall in love. You're either in love or you're not. You can't convince people you are. And this club has hemorrhaged off-field. They've lost a chairperson, they've lost a CEO. They've had Christian Petracca shop himself around. They shop Clayton Oliver around, and then he shopped himself around. You don't just click your fingers and it all is okay. Before I get your views on that, Brad Green is in interim capacity as president of this football club as Stephen Smith eventually takes over. But this is the state of flux they're in.
There's no interim president about this role. I'm president, I'm the leader. It stops with me. And potentially in 12 months' time, we've had a succession plan with Steve to come on board. He's on the board now, he's a director, and then he can succeed me in 12 months' time and I can ride off into the sunset.
I feel for Brad Green in this situation, Lotto. I feel he has actually done, in his own little way, an okay job, but I think it's beyond him to a point too. He was never set out and cut out to be a chairperson of a struggling club. And he was even making list decisions, if we remember, on the run in the lead up to the best and fairest count last year when he just put a line through the possibilities about Clayton Oliver going. Should they have pursued the possibilities around him, and do they now need to do that post-season? Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'll ask you, do you think the off-field instability, like who's the CEO at the moment? They don't have one.
Yeah, so I'm saying that's so the off-field instability is affecting on-field. I just think you need to get every part of your club in order. Like I'm talking, it's so important. Off-field filters down. You don't notice it as a young player, but you do as an older player. And I think this instability as a club is really hurting them. So there's no permanent CEO, there's no permanent chairperson. They've got issues with the leadership of the club, and they're losing matches of footy in poor fashion. Yeah, and a number of changes at assistant coaches level too, which maybe hurt them as well, losing some key senior men. Yep, and you contrast all of that with the team that did a number on them on the weekend, and you've already referenced Damien Hardwick's vision for the Gold Coast Suns. It didn't quite work out for him in his first season as coach of that club last year. It's starting to come together this year. He's the focus of our coach speak today.
Every great side has an identity. You know, you can't survive in a league at the highest level and not have an identity. We want our players to figure out what that identity piece is. You know, when people come to sit there and watch us play, whether it's family, friends or opposition supporters, what are they going to see? And that's something that we felt is something we needed to grab a little bit more and drive.
Okay, Lordo, what is that identity when he refers to it?
Well, they always had, for me, a lack of trust and a lack of consistency. So they were a different side at home to what they were away. And for them to come to the MCG and bully the Melbourne Football Club was an outstanding start. So they've still got a lot to do. Yeah, they beat West Coast away, which they should, and then Melbourne, obviously, who they've beaten up as well. But I think they're great both ways. So you've got honesty. So Touk Miller's one of the best two-way runners, but it was too much about Touk Miller. Now they've got a midfield, which is the envy of everyone in the competition, a backline who is unheralded but super strong. strong. So they've got every base covered. And as I said, they've got people in the perfect window of players who have played around the 100-game mark now who are ready to take the comp by storm.
And they've also got a player who's the focus of your Crypto.com bold call of the round.
It is, Damo, and it's all about Matthew Rowell. It was a performance of the round. So I want to take you over here to the big screen and talk about him and the way he destroyed the midfield of the Melbourne Football Club. So Matty Rowell was a #1 pick, so it should be no surprise for the performance that he had, Damo, but it's the explosive nature that he played with, which has been a concern. Some thought, will he always just be a contested player who can't hurt you on the outside? But he played he's played a lot of great AFL games, but this was arguably his best for his explosive nature and what he did to this Melbourne midfield. So he started toying with some Melbourne players, looking at them, tucking the footy under his arm and running in a way that I haven't seen before. So,
even the greats are always works in progress, but is he close to complete now?
Yeah, and my bold call is the fact that he's not there yet, but I think he'll be the best inside midfielder and surpass guys like Petracca and Cripps, which I know is a massive call by the end of this season.
You're right about, I'm holding on them still. Yes. I loving what I'm seeing, but West Coast and Melbourne, there's a question of credibility in the opponent quality. They've got a big opponent on the weekend. It's the Crows, who, again, yesterday did a number on North Melbourne late. It wasn't all their own way in the first three quarters, but their transition, their ball movement, Lordo, is at this point of the season competition best.
Yeah, that's right. And they're playing with a real confidence that is outstanding, the way they're playing. So I'm pleased for Matthew Nicks because he's been questioned as much as any coach, and he's very honest and transparent in the way that he speaks when they're not good enough. But they are playing with such confidence. They've recruited extremely well. I think the players that they've brought in, we're going to talk about soon in Petley and Cumming and Neil Bullen. So they've got some really good role players that have joined the team. But as I said, they've got stars. Rankin kicks the ball as well as anyone. Jordan Dawson kicks the ball as well as anyone. Rochelli's a beautiful user. Keys, what a player he's become. So I think they're just in the right window. So I can't wait to see this game against the Suns this week.
You mentioned those recruits, and every club that wants to aspire to go up the ladder needs to get some good recruits in, but you need to hit the draft well too, yes. And there's a player coming through in that space.
There is, and a lot thought that Dan Curtin may not make it at the Adelaide Crows. Was he homesick? Was he just not happy? But he is 197 centimetres and he's the fourth tall in that forward line. So I've never believed 3 talls can work, but they're working 4 in their forward line, and he's a fantastic. And I just thought, watching Peatling yesterday, I thought he was okay at the Giants, but he played a clean game. So he just didn't fumble and used the ball well, exploded out. And I thought, if he's going to be your 4th, 5th, 6th midfielder, what wonderful signs there is at the Adelaide Crows.
Yep. Look, you can just see that ball movement there, and it didn't go all their own way for the first 3 quarters, but they did, as you can see on the scoreline there, as it ended the 4th quarter, just took this game over, as a good club should do. Now, you've mentioned the forwards, that they are not getting in each other's ways. You've got the old wily Tex Walker kicking 4 goals, but Fogarty and Thilthorpe, they just keep away from each other in a way that benefits themselves as individuals, but more importantly, the team.
Yeah, and I want to throw in Curtin to it because he doesn't get in the way either. He gets quite high. You look at Tex here. So he's 70, 80 metres out, and he kicks it in long and high. But the way Thilthorpe holds out just to not jump on top of Fogarty, I hope Carlton are watching this game because that's where Curnow and Mackay have never been able to master this, where they're on top of each other. Those 4 just did not jump on top of each other for the whole game.
Yep. Lotto, 6 weeks ago, you tried to put something on the agenda that no one really listened to you. They're starting to listen now. I refer to what you did. Now, this was your first tweet or X posting in 12 months. And look, we joked about it at the time, that being the case, but you identified something that is now a problem in the game. It was the Ginbey push on Lawler, the broken jaw that Lawler sustained. It was an off-season match. It had nothing at stake. But you just felt it was a problem in the game and something that was becoming common, which it now has in the opening rounds of football. I refer to the Ryan Mansell situation, Richmond player on the weekend pushing Liam O'Connell into a pack situation. O'Connell subbed out of the game for HIA reasons. Now, this is now round 3 of the AFL. Mansell has been basically sanctioned for 3 weeks by the match review office. I have no problem with that, but this could have been dealt with by Ginbey adjudication in the off-season. It would have been cleaner. Yeah,
I was sitting on the couch at home watching that game in Perth, and I felt uncomfortable watching the incident with Ginbey and Lawler and seeing a young player break his jaw. And to see the AFL do nothing about it and say nothing to see here, it just took too long to get here. So Mansell will cop his 3, everyone will cop their 3 weeks from here. But you just want consistency, and it didn't happen. And Adam Uze's saying, well, my player Jinby copped nothing, and now in reverse, he's disappointed that Mansell.
I can understand that view, by the way.
And that's where it's disappointing and why it should have been stamped out so long ago.
Yeah, I mean, memos and emails to clubs is one thing, but actually using your own rules by way of sanctioning is a far better way to do it. Now, we are always trying to learn. Lordo, what did you learn out of round 3?
What I learnt is that the Bombers' attitude is everything. So I just thought that the attitude of the Bombers was sensational. Early on, they played with an intent which they didn't play against the Adelaide Crows the week before. So attitude is everything. Start a game well and you'll finish it well. The Giants, they got beaten by Hawthorn. I had a few concerns about them. I know conditions were shocking, but their depth is not where it needs to be. Maybe
you worried about them?
Yeah, to win a premiership, I don't think their depth is good enough. And Hawthorn have a healthy arrogance. They have young players who believe they belong, want the big moment, and it's what's setting them apart from the rest of the competition. One
of mine is Liberatore, Lobo. In Marcus Bontempelli's absence, I reckon you could mount a case. He's the most influential leader within the context of the four quarters of a game of footy. Look, in that context, Zach Butters missing for Port is costing them badly. Oscar Allen, he needs to sort himself out. Now, I don't care for... He's got every right to explore the market, but until he works out whether he wants to stay an Eagle or leave the Eagles, he's not going to sort his form problems out. He's not going to help his club. And I love Jack Higgins, Lotto. You know I do. I loved him at Richmond. I've loved him at St Kilda. There's bigger names at the Saints, but he still has impact.
I agree with you on Oscar Allen. He was so disappointing. It's time for Closing Doors, Damo, where we take a look at your article during the week, and it's centred around Geelong. You absolutely love the Cats, and so you should, because they have been a wonderful club for a long period of time. But you said if Geelong was a racehorse, and then you touched on their performance last week against St Kilda, where they lost Tom Stewart. They came home with a rush, and you said it's about sectionals, and they'll beat Brisbane on Saturday night. You must have felt pretty good early.
32 points up, I was thinking I was on the right track.
Where do you think they're at, Geelong?
Well, it's a worry, isn't it? Because they have now lost 2 matches. Now, they closed hard against St Kilda in round 2, and then they actually set the early tone against the Lions. Ultimately, Lordo, they're just off the top clubs, and they're playing last year's Premier, who also got them in last year's prelim final in similar fashion, if you recall. They were 25 points up in that particular game, and they got run down as they did on the weekend. So, look, Stewart being out may have cost the result of that game. I know you're massive on what the Lions are doing at the moment.
Yeah, they're a wonderful team, and as I said, they still should be premiership favourites, but I just want to raise the slow starts. Yes, they won a premiership doing it, but you don't want it to be something that becomes a habit with coming from behind.
Yep. Problems for the Blues. Winless after the 3 matches they've played. Competitive in all games. They led by 41 points in round 1. Lost it to Richmond. But Michael Voss, I just don't know where he goes from here.
Really confident in the manner, in the way we play. And I could spend a lot of time on the numbers, but it's not going to matter because the numbers actually stack up okay. But it's these small moments that it's enabling an opposition to be able to get back into the game. And it's been on our boot and we haven't been able to finish the deal, so we're going to have to own that.
Is it as simple as moments, Lordo? Because these moments are now adding up, and you look at that from those closing matches of 2024 added to the 3 of this year, and the only wins came against a team that finished second last and third last on the ladder last year.
No, you can't have your head in the sand as a coach when it's a span across 12 weeks. So I know there's been an off-season in between that, but when you've won 2 of your last 12, you can't talk about moments. You're just not good enough. They can only beat the lesser bottom 4 sides the way they've played over a 12-week period. And they play a side on Thursday night in Collingwood who are a transition team who run, carry, spread. So if they get beaten again by being the dump, just hack the ball forward, no run, no carry by another side, well, Michael can't be serving that up after the game and saying we've failed in moments again, because it's become pretty much who Carlton are.
There's a problem that some moves work. Lewis Young kicked 2 goals. Yeah. Kemp kicked 5, and Silvani played really well down back. He made some changes. They worked. They still lost.
Yeah, they just can't play at 4 quarters. I know you always lose momentum within a team, but they're very much, they have a good quarter, get exposed. There's no consistency at Carlton at all.
All right, they're coming for Max Gawn, aren't they? They're coming for him hard. You've got Tom DeConey, you've got Tristan Cherry, you've got Rowan Marshall, you've got Lloyd Meek, you've got Tim English still there. You've got another name.
I have. I've got Luke Jackson, and I know he didn't beat a lot in the ruck yesterday, but I thought it was a commanding performance. 17 disposals, 5 marks, and it was the type of marks he took. And I just think he has that much talent, but he hasn't fully reached his potential. So I think he and Tom DeConing, yes, Tom DeConing's in front with his performances, but I think those 2 talent-wise are as good as it gets in this competition, and he should be one pushing the rival for the All-Australian Ruckman by the end of the year.
Lordy, I think I had another bad week of tipping, and I'm down the bottom or near the bottom of our afl.com.au, crypto.com leadership board. You got one on me, and you're still only 2 behind the leader, the tearaway leader, Chad Wingard, and Gemma's there as well.
Yeah, historically you've been good though, but I'll back you in to get back.
Thank you for watching Access for Crypto.com. We'll be back next Monday.